Hi and welcome to this video where we're going to take a look, or rather I'm going to take a look at my top 8 rally titles on the PS4. Now, please keep in mind these are my personal preferences. This is the order I put them in. Your mileage may differ with regard to these. Now, I've only included in this actual full-blown off-road titles, so the like of, say, Gran Turismo Sport or Project Cars 2, which has also got elements of Rallycross or Rally in it. I've excluded from this. This is titles that its principal focus is Rally. And I've done this just because I think it'd be interesting to look at where we're just over a week away from Dirt Rally 2.0 landing. So, with no further ado, number 8 on my list is Baja, Edge of Control. So this is a remaster of an old title, one that I really liked and was quite looking forward to. Plus points with it are it's dirt cheap and it is a faithful remaster of the original. That's also its negative points. It is far too faithful a remaster. It's polished up around the edges a little bit, but the main issue is they've not really updated the control mechanisms in any way, shape or form for current generation peripherals. So whilst my T300 does work on it, it really is a pain in the arse to get it working on it in any meaningful way. You have to wind down the steering lock right the way to well under 40 degrees rotation. It's a missed opportunity more than anything else. So while I do still enjoy it from time to time, it comes bottom on my personal list, I'm afraid. Next up, and in the 7th place slot, we have Dirt 4. This may surprise a few people, but Dirt 4 for me felt like an awful wasted opportunity, which was really a bit frustrating. So it's got a good car list, it's got a varied series of events in it. So you've got Historic Rally, you've got Rally, you've got the buggy stuff, you've got the Land Rush type stuff, and a bit of Gymkhana in there, so it's good and varied. But the biggest issue was the track creator. It's a great idea in theory, it's just not particularly well executed, and that's my problem with it. You end up with tracks that look fairly bland, there's no real atmosphere to them, and they're too cookie cutter in approach. As a result, it was one step forward and two steps backwards in a big way from Dirt Rally, so just never really gelled from me in that regard. Occupying the number 6 slot, and it was a close fought one between this and the one in the number 5 slot, we have Gravel. Now, Gravel is probably the most arcade-orientated racer, or off-road racer on this list, by quite a margin, in all honesty. It's not to say it's not fun. I liken it to a kind of homage to the Sega Rally series in its approach. It's fun. There's a massive amount of content. It was well supported post-go live by Milestone. It didn't grab me as much as I'd really hoped it would. Some of the DLC stuff was stunning looking, the Iceland stages in particular. Again, a lot of variety in there, but it may just be my slight preference towards a more sim-biased handling model. But it just didn't grab me in the way I expected it to. Still a solid title, and if you're after an arcade rally racer, it's pretty much the best one around in that regard, but this comes in fairly low on my list, unfortunately. So, just edging out Gravel to take the number 5 slot, we have V-Rally 4. Now, this is a title that's left me very conflicted over the period of time it's been out. Let's get some of the negatives out of the way first of all. Its performance can be a bit ropey at times. You get a little bit of blurring when you're playing it, which can be a bit distracting. The season pass was an utter and complete rip-off for anybody who didn't buy it at launch. It added about £5 onto the cost of the base game if you bought it at launch, but if you bought it standalone it was 20 quid, which is just absurd and not worth it for the 4 cars it gives you. Having said that, what VR4 does well, it builds slightly on the WRC7 handling model, which is a solid handling model. It's got some interesting locations, the stages look really good, and it's also got an excellent stage generator. Everything that Dirt 4 did wrong with the stage generator, these guys have done right with the stage generator. I'm not going to go into massive details because I've got other videos that show how it works and talk about why it's such a good tool. The career mode's still bust in terms of its progression and letting you know what kind of car you should be using to stand an even remote chance against what type of event, and the AI is a bit hinky. But you can quite happily just stick in the kind of single event mode and all of the vehicles are unlocked, all of the stages are unlocked, the full generator tool is there, and it's just a great big sandpit that looks okay, still got a few bugs and glitches, but yeah, it's a solid title all round, or rather it's evolved into a solid title all round, not bad at all. So yeah, that's V Rally 4. So we're into the top slots here, and at number 4 we have Dakar 18. Now, Dakar 18 is, in my view, probably the single most misunderstood title on this list. It got slated at launch for a variety of reasons, some valid, some not particularly valid. The valid ones were it did look bloody awful at launch. It wasn't particularly user-friendly and was a bit glitchy, and the handling on some of the vehicles was, well, odd to say the least. The reasons it got slated at launch that I don't think were unfair is an awful lot of people misunderstood what it was. This is not a sprint racing title. This is proper Dakar-based endurance racing. We're talking the majority of the stages here are last 30 to 40 minutes, and it's a challenge of navigation and endurance, getting the car or whatever vehicle you've chosen to the end whilst being able to follow the quite in-depth and deliberately French roadbooks to get to the end. Yes, the aim is still to be the fastest, but just getting to the end is a challenge in its own right, particularly with the navigation and how it works, and some people just did not get that, unfortunately. For me, I've been a long time fan of the Dakar. Previous titles that have tried doing it have done woefully. This is the first real decent shout at it. It's a proper workout with the force feedback on my rig as well, particularly some of the longer 40 plus minute stages. You feel it once you get off with the force feedback and a tactile rig. It's also been really supported, well supported with DLC from launch as well. And considering this is the first go at this for the developers, they've stuck with it and they've turned what was a bit of a shaky launch into actually quite a solid title. Only caveat is ignore the bikes and the quads, they handle like crap. Stick to the four-wheel stuff and it's a really solid title, but very niche. Okay, the top 3, and in at number 3 we have WRC7. The WRC series, since Milestone lost it about 3 iterations ago, has gone through some quite rapid changes. WRC 5 was clearly a rushed dev and not very good. WRC 6 started to build on that and started showing some promise, and then along came WRC 7 and fulfilled on an awful lot of those promises. Now, don't get me wrong, it's still got some work to do around the handling model, which I hope they continue to build on, but it's the entire WRC season. It's got a stupid amount of stages in it, and it's got some really, really excellent stage design in there. We've got some good super specials in there. It's got the full rules with everything you'd expect included in it, including the power stages. It's a nicely put together career mode. It handles decently, and as I said, the stages are the real winner for me here, particularly some of the epic ones, which are 17-18 kilometers in length and properly narrow at times. Good use of mixed surfaces as well, which is often overlooked in an awful lot of rally titles, where it just sticks to one surface throughout the entire run. Some really good use of mixed surfaces in WRC7. For the upcoming WRCA, if they can nail it and refine that handling model further and polish it up, they can have another strong title on their hands. This one surprised me on how big a leap it made over its predecessor WRC6. Right, so slotting in at number 2, we have Dirt Rally. May surprise some people may find that Dirt Rally is their number one choice for rally title. And as I say, this list is my preference, so if that's your preference, absolutely fine. But for me, it gets pipped to the post for a few reasons. One, and I know this is part of the history of how the title came about, but it is quite light on content, and the career mode really is bare bones. Is really well supported still to this day, which is good to see by daily, weekly and monthly events. And they did do a really good job, in my opinion, the single best title on PS4 as far as this goes, in implementing the PSVR, so VR support in a sim or simish based title. It still drives pretty well, particularly on gravel. Some of the rear wheel drive cars are a bit odd, and you get that sense of that centre point rotation still in Dirt Rally. Some of the aero when you're off the ground can leave a little bit to be desired as well, but overall it's a good looking title. It handles competently enough, particularly on gravel. The stage design looks really good, and you just can't get away from the amount of immersion you get off of the back of the VR included in it, and that's a lot of the reason why I keep coming back to it. Running leagues in VR in Dirt Rally is just, it's absurdly immersive, and for me it deserves to be number 2 on my list. Why not number 1? Well, let's talk about why that's the case. So number 1 slot is taken by Seb Loeb Rally Evo. Now I want to get a couple of things out of the way. First of all, this is a game that looks bloody appalling a lot of the time, and the rest of the time looks passable at best. There's some weird stuff going on with some of the car models in this. It's running on Milestone's old proprietary engine, which is the main reason why. Sound-wise, it sounds absolutely appalling. It really does. Everything sounds like it's being played through a really cheap tinny Bluetooth speaker. So we'll get those out of the way. That's a taken for given. But the plus sides more than outweigh that. Again, like WRC7, this is a title that's got some absolutely stunningly good stage design, most of which are taken from actual stages. Now, you can't laser scan a rally stage, but you can put some care and effort into recreating it accurately, and that's exactly what they've done here. You watch in-car footage of say any of the Welsh stages in here, and then you watch in-car footage of the real thing, and they're practically indistinguishable between the two in terms of the accuracy of the cambers, the turns, the radiuses, the angle of ascent and descent. It's all really, really, really well done, and that expands to every single event in here. It's also got a lot of content in terms of the cars, and a lot of unusual content. Don't get me wrong, it's got some woeful omissions as well, not having a Mark 1 or Mark 2 Escort being the main ones, and it is a bit padded out by Citroens, but that's no surprise given it was a Seb Loeb title released while he was still partnered with Citroen, so that's understandable. It's got a huge career mode with a ridiculous amount to do in it as well, all of which are plus points to it. But the single main plus point for me is quite simply the physics. The handling model in the Seb Loeb Rally Evo is still to this day the standout and the benchmark for a handling model in a dedicated rally title, and by quite some way. The way the cars react is extremely convincing, but also, as importantly, the way the car reacts in association with the surface that you're driving over is again amazingly well done. it's quite deceptive because the poor graphics mean every single stage looks completely smooth and flat, but it's not. You get behind a wheel on this and you've got a real job and a real workout to balance that tipping point between speed and the car being stable enough for you to control, and it really is a challenge. And it's why still to this day, many years after launch, my favourite rally league to take part in is a Seb Loeb Rally Evo league. 4-day events in that, and it's a challenge to get your vehicle to the end intact. Some people say, ooh, but it's got a rewind option, so it's arcade. Sorry, that's bullshit. You can turn the rewind option off if you want completely, but even with it, you play this and tell me it's an arcade title, you're either exceedingly biased, delusional, or have no idea what you're talking about. It's most definitely not an arcade title. It is still to this day the best handling model, in my view, of a rally title out there, and it's for that simple reason alone that it takes my #1 slot. So there we go. Around about a week away from me getting my hands on Dirt Rally 2. It'll be interesting to see how it compares to the 8 titles on this list. I'm expecting big things. I'm expecting it to be comparable to the original Dirt Rally. Will it challenge Seb Loeb Rally Evo? In terms of the handling model, I'm still not convinced, but we will see. If you've enjoyed this, please do throw me a like. If you want to tell me what your top 8 or whatever are, please do list them down below. Keep in mind that your list will be no more all right or wrong than mine, because this is a completely subjective view on this. It's what I prefer, what titles I go back to the most often out of the rally titles I own. And if you want to see more content like this, please do subscribe away. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.